Hey y'all, it's Kate from the Apothecary and welcome back to my channel.
I am back with another book haul. So this past week, as you may or may not know, it was my birthday and John decided we need to go on a bookstore road trip. I was so excited for this trip. So here in North Carolina, we have two used bookstores that you all hear me talk about quite a bit. That's the McKay's stores, one in Mebane and one in Winston-Salem. This past week, we went to the original three in Tennessee, and I had a blast. I got so many books, way more books than I ever expected that I planned, and John says it wasn't enough. Just to give you an idea of how many books I own in general, after this trip, I did I used my library app that I have, my home library app, and my spreadsheets, did an accounting of basically all the books I have and how many are read out of those that I own. I am just 10 books away from the qualification of a small library. I almost have 1,000 books. I have like 990 books. That's insane. That counts all of my digital books. Some people don't count their digital books. I count it because if you go to a library, like when I go to my public library, I can get digital books from there. So I'm counting those in my collection because they are part of my collection. And a lot of them are kind of like a lot of audiobook versions of the books that I own for immersion reads. So I'm counting them all. But that's a lot of books. These books are included in that number. I did that after I brought these books home. So I'm going to try to start in order of where we went on our trip, and I'll mention the stores and the places where we got them from. We went to 4 different McKay's, 3 in Tennessee, 1 in North Carolina on our way home. And I'm just going to jump right in because there's so many books here. I will be here forever. So the first place that we stopped was McKay's in Knoxville, Tennessee. Shout out to McKay's in Knoxville. I got so many books from there, y'all. I had to write myself in after this first trip. Here we go. I got 4 books from Knoxville. I had to limit myself because of these 3 stores that we had planned on going. The 4th one we didn't plan on going, but we stopped on our way home. So let me just jump right into the books now. First up, we have When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. I am so excited to read this. This has been on my wish list for a very long time. I've heard great things about it. Alex Green lives in a world much like ours, except for its most seminal event, the mass dragoning. Yes, you heard that right, dragoning of 1955, when hundreds of thousands of women sprouted wings, scales, and talons and took to the skies. That right there has me hooked. I can't wait to start this. I am so excited to read about When Women Were Dragons because what an amazing story that sounds like. Next up is a sequel to a book that I've read and loved, and many of you have. That is Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree. This is the sequel to Legends and Lattes, which I loved, and I need this back in my life. I needed another cozy read, so I can't wait to dive into this. Viv is a young, battle-hungry orc, but her career with the notorious mercenary company isn't going as planned. Wounded during the hunt for a powerful necromancer, she's packed off against her will to recuperate in the sleepy beach town of Merk. So far from the action that she worries she'll never be able to return to it. What's a thwarted soldier of fortune to do? Spending her hours as a beleaguered bookshop in the company of its foul-mouthed proprietor is the last thing Viv would have predicted, but it may be both exactly what she needs and the seed of change that she couldn't possibly imagine. Still, adventure isn't all that far away. A suspicious traveler in gray, a gnome with a chip on her shoulder, a summer fling, and an improbable number of skeletons prove Merk to be more eventful than Viv has ever expected. This sounds like a companion to Legends and Lattes. I thought it was a sequel, but maybe it's more of a companion because this doesn't mention anything that happened in that first book, so maybe it's a companion to it. I don't know. We will have to find out and see. If anyone knows if this is more companion than sequel to Legends and Lattes, let me know in the comments below. Either way, I am psyched to read it. Next up is adding to my horror collection. I read a book by Grady Hendrix earlier this year that was Witchcraft for the Wayward World, and I absolutely loved it. I knew I wanted to read more Grady Hendrix, so when I saw a bunch of copies of this book on the shelf, I had to grab myself one. This is How to Sell a Haunted House. I can't wait. Ever since I heard Leslie talk about this from the Nerdy Narrative, I knew I wanted to read it, but I didn't know if I was ready for it. After reading Witchcraft for the Wayward Girls, which I know is very different than his other books, I'm ready for more Grady Hendrix in my life. New York Times bestselling author Grady Hendrix takes on the haunted house in a thrilling novel that explores the way your past and your family can haunt you like nothing else. I am ready for it. And then the last book that I got in Knoxville is I don't know if I will be able to say this right, Jashad Air by Sarah Hashman. I don't know anything about this book, but it has been on my wish list for a long time. And I saw it and I thought, you know what? Maybe now is the time to read this. Now's the time to tackle this. Let's see what the back says. An unmissable tale of shattered kingdoms, of forbidden magic, and cunning royals unfolds in this Egyptian-inspired epic fantasy debut. You know what? I am sold. I love it when it is something that is inspired by a different culture. It's not, your typical Anglo-Saxon fantasy that you find a lot, or American fantasy, or even just British fantasy. This is Egyptian-inspired epic fantasy. I am so sold on it because this is going to hit so many different buttons, I think. I can't wait. After we went to Knoxville, we headed straight over to Chattanooga, and y'all, it was so much fun. That's where we ended up staying the night for a night because it was a long drive just getting to Knoxville. It was like 5.5 hours and then another 2 hours to get to Chattanooga. We were pooped. We were beat. But first, we went to McKay's in Chattanooga. So shout out to McKay's in Chattanooga for providing a great selection of books for me to come away with. And here we go. I went crazy again, y'all. Honestly, looking at all these books in my bookshelves, I don't even know if I'm going to have room for all of these books. I might have to, I've already started doing some rearranging. I might have to do more rearranging before we can get there. There is a good variety of things here. Some historical fiction, some general fiction, some that I think is like a romance. So lots to get into here. There's 5 books from Chattanooga. I know, y'all, I know. First up is The Atomic City Girls by Jeanette Beard, and I have wanted to read this one for a long time. I am a secret historical fiction fan. Not so secret, people know, but that was like my first true, like, really dig in and buy all the books kind of love. When I started really getting into reading as an adult, I loved it. So this one takes place in 1944. What you see here, what you hear here, what you do here, let it stay here. In November 1944, 18-year-old June Walker boards an unmarked bus destined for a city that doesn't officially exist. Oak Ridge, Tennessee has sprung up in a matter of months, a town of trailers and segregated houses, 24-hour cafeterias, and constant security checks. There, June joins hundreds of other young women operating massive machines whose purpose is never explained. They know they are helping to win the war, but must ask no questions and reveal nothing to outsiders. This just sounds so fascinating to me, and I think there's a movie version of this, I want to say. I can't wait to read this because this book has been on my radar for a while, and I don't know, I think once I got into fantasy, I didn't read a lot more historical fiction, and I really want to get back into that because that was really, I love historical fiction, and it just scratches an itch that fantasy doesn't for me. So I am really excited to get into this World War II novel. I know a lot of historical fictions are World War II based, but this one sounds really different. And if there is a movie, I'll definitely be watching it after I read the book. But I think that's how I first learned of this book, but I'm so interested in it. Another book that has been on my list for a long time is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. This one is another one that I don't know much about, but that cover caught my eye from the first time I saw it. All those colors I absolutely love. This is a Good Morning America Book Club pick, if that means anything to you. Doesn't mean much to me, but I still love it. Named a Best Book of the Year by New York Times, Washington Post, NPR, People, Time, Vanity Fair, and Glamour. Twins, inseparable as children, ultimately choose to live in two very different worlds. One black and one white. And that right there has me hooked. I can't wait to read this. That's all I'm going to read so far because I don't want to spoil it. It sounds like one that you just want to dive right into and not get anything spoiled. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to read the rest of the back even after I look away. I promise you that's all I've read on the back. So I can't wait. Next up is, well, two books next up are two historical fiction books by the same author who I've read before. Forget what the name of the book that I read by her before, but I remember absolutely loving it and saying, I want to read more Kristen Harmel. The two books that I got are The Book of Lost Names and The Forest of Vanishing Stars. Both of these books caught my eye by first the author and second the titles. I can't wait to read them. The Book of Lost Names is inspired by astonishing true events, which I absolutely love. Ava Traub Abrams, a semi-retired librarian in Florida, is at the returns desk one morning when her eyes lock on a photograph in a newspaper nearby. She freezes. It's an image of a book she hasn't seen in 65 years. A book she recognizes as the Book of Lost Names. The accompanying article describes the looting of libraries across Europe by the Nazis during World War II, an experience Ava remembers all too well. I love this so much. I can't wait to learn what the Book of Lost Names is all about. And I see at the bottom here that, let me scoot back. The book that I read and absolutely loved from her was The Room on Rue Amélie, which was a French historical fiction. This is a American historical fiction. I am really intrigued to learn about the Book of Lost Names and that this was inspired by true events. I can't wait. And yes, kind of another World War II, but like a little past World War II, I think. I'm so excited because I also love the story of these lost items, these lost gems that the Nazis stole and that are now being refound. So I'm really excited for this one. Now, we also have in this book, the Book of Lost Names, an excerpt from this book. So obviously I'll skip that when I'm reading this. I'll read Book of Lost Names first and then probably just go right into this one. This is The Forest of Vanishing Stars, a powerful and compelling masterpiece, a significant story for our present time. About a young woman who uses her knowledge of the wilderness to help Jewish refugees escape the Nazis until a secret from her past threatens everything. So again, another World War II historical fiction, but one that sounds completely unique and sadly relevant today, sounds like. So I can't wait to dive into both of these Kristen Harmel books and tell you all about them. The last book that I got from Chattanooga is Lessons in Chemistry, which I honestly don't know anything about other than it's by Bonnie Garmis, and I've learned that there's a TV show up based on this, I believe. I think it's a romance, I want to say. It's supposedly really hilarious. Let's see. This is going to be tricky. I'm just going to do it like this. Chemist Elizabeth Zott is not your average woman. In fact, Elizabeth Zott would be the first to point out that there is no such thing as an average woman. But it's the early 1960s and her all-male team at Hastings Research Institute takes a very unscientific view of equality. Except for one. Kelvin Evans, the lonely, brilliant Nobel Prize nominated grudge holder who falls in love with, of all things, her mind. True chemistry results. So it sounds like a romance that is also humorous. It says at the bottom here, laugh out loud funny, shrewdly observant, and studied with a dazzling cast of supporting characters. Lessons in chemistry is as original and vibrant as its protagonist. I can't wait to dive into this. I've really heard nothing about it, but one person on Discord said that they watched the TV show after they read this and they loved it. So, you know, I am game for anything. The orange, I think, caught my eye, and I had seen the title before, but I didn't really pay attention to what people were saying about it, so I can't wait to dive in. After Chattanooga, so we stayed the night in Chattanooga, and then we hopped over, it's like 2.5 hours, to Nashville, and we went to the McKay's in Nashville, and that was our last planned stop. There I got even more books. I told y'all, I went crazy. According to John, I didn't get enough books. He's like, is that all you're getting? And I'm like, yeah, that's all I have room for. I'm trying to get them out of the bag, and it's proving to be difficult. Okay, there we go. So we got 6 books in Nashville. It was on my birthday, so, you know, I counted my birthday as a freebie, even though it wasn't free at all. But the beauty of McKay's is that the amount paid for one of these trips to McKay's, one of these bags, is the amount you would usually pay for a brand new book at Barnes & Noble. So that's how I justify it. So let's just dive into these 6 books because there's 6 of them. And this is going to be a long video to begin with. So first up we have A Radical Act of Free Magic by H.G. Perry. This is book 2 in the Shadow History series. If you remember, the first book was A Declaration Rights of Magicians, I believe it's what's called. It was so fun. This, I believe, if I remember that right, and it looks like it by the description on the back, is a historical fantasy, which I love because it's melding 2 of my favorite genres into one. This is book 2 in that series, and I believe, based on the description, it pretty much follows straight from where book 1 left off. And I read book 1 and I finished it, and I needed book 2 right away. So I can't wait to take up on this. A sweeping tale of magic and revolution in a world not quite like our own. A Radical Act of Free Magic is the conclusion to a genre-defying series of the struggle for freedom in the early modern world. So, conclusion, this is a duology, not a series like I originally thought. And this takes place during the time of the French Revolutionary Wars. Again, just like the first one, I can't wait to see where this one ends up. Next up is a book that I have been eyeing for a while, but I don't know what stopped me from buying it, but I haven't gotten it. I think because I've been trying to focus on series that I'm reading, series that I own, books that I've wanted to read for a long, long time. But finally, you know what? On my birthday, I said, screw it, let's do it. Let's get Assistant to the Villain. This is book 1 in a brand new series by Hannah Nicole. I can't see it because it's down by my fingers. Mayrer. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. And it's right on the edge too, so there you go. I had to look this up to see if this was the first book or the second book because the titles are so similar, but look at those sprayed edges. You know I'm a sucker for sprayed edges, so that's the main reason why it caught my eye. I love the cover. I love that purple. Our back says, Assistant wanted, notorious high-ranking villain seeks loyal, level-headed assistant for unspecified office duties, supporting staff for random mayhem and terror and other dark things in general. Discretion a must, excellent benefits. I love that description. That little blurb is hilarious. I can't wait to dive into this one because it sounds very devious but hilarious at the same time. Now, the next 2 books up are 2 books in a series, book 1 and 2. Book 1 I have been eyeing for a long, long time. It's been on my wish list for a long time, and I finally went in and got it. That is Black Leopard Red Wolf by Marlon James. I've heard such amazing things about this book. This is a chunker. I didn't realize how big it was, but it's a big one. I have heard such great things. This is actually going to be a trilogy. I'm not sure when book 3 is out or coming out. I don't know anything about this series really, other than book 1 was amazing according to people, so I had to get book 1. And book 1 is, the trilogy is the Dark Star trilogy. It's been blurbed by Neil Gaiman and Salman Rushdie, so you know it's got to be good. Drawing from African history and mythology and his own rich imagination, Marlon James has written a saga of breathtaking adventure, defying categorization and full of unforgettable characters. Black Leopard, Red Wolf is surprising and profound. I am so excited. So then, without even knowing it until I was cataloging these once I got home, I ended up getting book 2 in that series, which is Moon Witch, Spider King, and y'all, look at that amazing cover. I love it so much. Let's see what we can find out about this. In the stunning second novel of the Dark Star trilogy, Sogalan, the Moon Witch, tells her own story of her life, how she gained her power, and what happened in the search for a missing child. So it sounds like maybe like more of a companion. It's labeled as a second book in a trilogy, but just without reading book 1, it's based on the description, sounds maybe like more of a companion. I can't wait for both of them. I love their covers, are so fascinating to me. I'm so excited. But wait, there's more, just like the OxyClean guy says. The next book up is a second book in a series that I absolutely loved. The first book was A Space Between Worlds, which was an amazing sci-fi that I read that really had me reconsidering how I read science fiction. This is Those Beyond the Wall. The sticker is right above there and it's hard to read. This is Micaiah Johnson and I am so excited for this. The back says, I like hearing stories. I'm not great at telling them, and I don't like doing things I'm not good at, but I don't have a choice. Too many of the other tellers are dead, and they're waiting for me to say their parts. We don't like witnesses in Ashtown, but I guess that's what I am now. So when I read book 1, I finished it, and it felt like it was the type of ending where it can work on its own as a standalone, but can also lead to more books. And I'm so glad that it led to more, because I wanted more of Micaiah Johnson's writing, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be a series or a duology or a trilogy or just a standalone. And so I've been looking for more books from Micaiah Johnson since I read The Space Between Worlds. The last book that I got from the Nashville store is The Children of Gods and Fighting Men by Shauna Lawless. This is book 1 in this series, I believe. I think that this is book 1, but I know Leslie at the Nerdy Narrative can definitely tell me if this is book 1 or book 2, because I know she's read this whole series, or at least the first couple books, and loved them. This is in Irish Celtic inspired fantasy, which are some of my buzzwords again. 1981 AD, the Viking king of Dublin is dead. His wife, Gormflaith, has ambitions for herself and her son, but Ireland is a dangerous place and kings tend not to stay kings for long. That has me hooked already. I knew I wanted to read this when Leslie read it and loved it, and now is my chance. I can't wait. But Leslie, please tell me that this is book 1, because I'll be sad if I can't start this as soon as I thought I could. So those were the McKays in Tennessee that we went to. When we were driving back home to North Carolina, John was like, you know what? Let's make one more stop, and let's stop in our favorite place, Mebane. I'll say I loved this road trip, but Mebane is still my favorite McKay store because the layout is so my vibes. It's big, it's spacious, the parking lot is big, there's lots of lights because there's floor to ceiling windows, and I just love it so much. I talk about it at work all the time. I got 3 books from that McKay's because I couldn't not get books, you know how I am. So let's This was the only case, because I hadn't planned on stopping it, that I didn't trade in books, so I had to try to really limit myself. So the first book from Mebane that I got is The Paper Menagerie and Other Stories by Ken Liu. This is, of course, by the author of The Grace of Kings, which I have not read either, but I will one day. I've heard great things about this collection, and I am coming to the end of some of my books in my Short Story Sundays collection, so I might start sliding in some other collections and getting some new ones going, and this might be one of the first ones I add in. We'll see when I get to this, but I can't wait when I do get to it and get some more interesting short stories going. Next up, we have another book that Leslie loved, and that has gotten a lot of reviews lately, good and bad. People have very mixed feelings about this, but you know, I am so excited for this. Of course, I'm talking about Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This has gotten such huge exposure. I am reading it because I love me some dragons, and this book, A Dragon Without Its Rider, is a tragedy. A rider without their dragon is dead. I love that part of the codex. I am so excited to jump into this. This is, of course, fantasy, thrilling, romance. I think maybe I honestly don't know anything beyond dragons, but I am in for it. I know Leslie loved it, and I trust her opinion on most books, so I'm just going to dive in and one day and get into it. And then the last book that I got on our bookstore road trip for my birthday was Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. I probably butchered that, but this is produced by James. So this one, Stalking Jack the Ripper, is just like The Assistant to the Devil, where I've picked it up several times at the store and I've set it down for various reasons. It wasn't the right time, but something about it this time just really gripped me, and I felt like I need to get this now. Maybe because I've gotten a little bit more horror reading in, thriller reading in, something about this book just kept bringing me back to it, so I had to get it. He murdered women in cold blood. He terrorized an entire city. He taunted those of us who hunted him down. But despite all these horrors, in the end, I could not deny it. I was the girl who loved the Ripper. That I just love. I don't know. I just love it. I'm so excited for it. And y'all, this stack of books is humongous. I'm going to try to take a picture for the thumbnail. It's insane how many books I got. When you stack them all together, that's a lot of dang books. So now I have to go find both time to read all these books and places to put them all. I am so excited. If you've read any of these books before, let me know in the comments below. What did you think of them? Where should I start in these books? There's so many I don't even know where to start, when to start. If there are books here that are great at reading at certain times of the year, that's really helpful information to know. So add that in the comments below so I know when would be a great time to start this. As always, keep reading, and I love you all to the moon and back. Bye.